Welcome to Learning Programming in C. This is Lesson 0. I call this Lesson 0 because it doesn't actually cover any actual programming yet. However, it does cover how to set up yourself so that you can program. If you already have a setup where you can write C code, then you can ignore this video. Otherwise, if you're completely new, you may want to watch this video. The title of this video probably does not make much sense right now, but as we go along, it should. C is a programming language. It's a language that is written by humans so that we can communicate actions to a computer. It's a language that is understandable by humans. Directly, though, a programming language is not understood by a computer. What is understood is something called machine code, and so we take our language and convert that into machine code that the computer can understand. So we write our C code and we use something called a compiler to turn our C code into machine code. In order to write programs in C, you will need a compiler. Now, there are many different types of compilers and many compilers for C. You may use any compiler you wish as long as it's a C compiler and it works with the examples we have. But if you're new to this and you don't have a compiler, what we are going to use for these videos is GCC on Ubuntu. And I'm going to show you how to install Ubuntu and GCC so that way you can use it for the rest of the videos to learn C. What is Ubuntu? Ubuntu is an operating system, and just like Microsoft Windows and Mac OS X, it allows you to completely run a new system, and it's completely free, which is why we're using it. All the software we are using is free, and so you can learn without actually having to spend any money as long as you have a computer. You can directly install Ubuntu on your system, but because it can be complicated and cause issues, we are actually going to install it on a virtual machine. A virtual machine lets you run a complete operating system within a window on your computer, so you don't have to restart into it, and you can just open an application and then you will have access to Ubuntu. And so it's easy for us to install and for you to use GCC on Ubuntu. Then you'll be able to use GCC to compile C code and write software and programs. As I said, Ubuntu is completely free, and you can download Ubuntu from ubuntu.com. Just go to ubuntu.com and click Get Ubuntu Now. Once you click that, there are 3 different options. You just want the Ubuntu desktop. It's the simplest. And the options for 32-bit is the simplest to get, so just ignore that, leave it at 32-bit, and click Start Download. This will then start downloading Ubuntu on your system. It comes in a disk image, which you don't really need to know what it is, but it will allow us to install Ubuntu on VirtualBox. VirtualBox is also free, and it lets you run Ubuntu within a window. You can get it from virtualbox.org. Once you're at virtualbox.org, choose the download section on the left. Now this page may look a bit complex at the beginning, but under VirtualBox platform packages, this is where you choose which version of VirtualBox you need. It's based off of the system you are currently running. So if you're running Windows right now, then you choose this first one and you click this. I am using a Mac, and so I use the OS X hosts. The host is the system you are running right now. So again, if you're running Windows, click this, but I am running Mac OS, so I'm going to choose the second one. Once both of those are downloaded and you've installed VirtualBox and you launch it, you'll see this window. On the side, this will normally be empty, but as you can see, I've already installed one VirtualBox. To create a new one, you just simply click the New on the toolbar. It brings you to this wizard, which we can step through. First, we name it. I'm just going to call it Ubuntu. You may call it whatever you want, and it automatically decides that it is Ubuntu. But if it doesn't, you have to choose Linux and then Ubuntu. After clicking Continue, it will automatically create a recommended size for memory. You can normally just leave this. And it will ask you for a startup disk. It's much easier if you just create a new one and just click Continue. That's fine. Dynamically allocated is fine. Most of the options here, unless you know otherwise that you want to change it, you can leave it the same. Now that I've created it, we have this blank VirtualBox virtual machine that we can use. We click Start. And because it's the first time, it automatically knows that it is the first run, so it will help us install the system. It asks us where we want to get our CD drive from, and it says by default it's trying to grab the CD from the actual CD drive on this computer. But we want to use the CD drive image that we have downloaded from the Ubuntu website. So we click this icon to choose a file, and you choose the disk image that you downloaded. Now you can imagine that this is a computer and it is running this CD. Once the VirtualBox gets to this machine, you need to choose Install Ubuntu. If you wish, you can choose Download Updates while installing, and this will update your Ubuntu as it is installing. Because the disk is completely empty already, you can just leave it as is and click Continue. And then install. It will install Ubuntu on the disk. While it's installing, it will ask you to choose your time zone. Usually US English is what you use. If you have an alternative keyboard, you may choose that. Put in your user information, and if you want, choose a password. Because this is on my machine, I'm just going to say log in automatically. Now that's all the options it asks for, and now we just wait for it to install. Once you see this installation complete dialog, click the Restart Now button. Once you see that it says please remove any installation media, it should automatically eject the drive, which it has done right now, because when I right click on this CD icon, you can see that nothing is mounted. If I click within the window and click enter, it will then restart the computer. There's one last step we have to do before we're completely done. To make Ubuntu run perfectly within the virtual environment, we need to install the guest edition tools, which will allow it to run a lot more smoothly within the VirtualBox. To do this, all you have to do is click Devices and click Install Guest Editions. Once you do this, this dialog will appear and you have to click the Run button. It will then ask you for your password, and this is the password that you entered when you first installed Ubuntu. Once you click Authenticate, it will fully install these tools. Once it says press return to close this window, all you have to do is press the Enter key. Once you've done that, restart Ubuntu one more time by choosing the gear, shutdown, and clicking restart. Now that we've fully restarted and installed the guest editions, we have a good environment to start learning programming. This is the environment that all the rest of the videos will be using, and it will have a environment that everyone can use, and we can equally learn C programming together.